Still typing out work schedules by hand or dragging cells like it's 2005? In this video, I'll show you how to build this smarter schedule in Excel that color codes itself, calculates the finish time for each employee, and highlights days off automatically. You don't need to be an Excel expert. We'll keep it simple, clean, and actually useful. And by the end of the video, you'll have a customizable template that saves you hours every month. I'll start by entering the first date of the month in cell B3. Now my dates are day, month, year, but you should enter your date in the appropriate format for your locale. From this date, I'm going to use the sequence function to generate all the dates for the month, and I want them going across one row, so the first argument is 1. How many columns do I want? Well, I need a date for each day in the month, which I can calculate by taking the end of the month date minus the start of the month date plus 1. So I'm going to use the EO month or end of month function to calculate the last date of the month based on the month start. How many months do I want to go forward? Well, no months. I want the last date of the current month. That's going to give me the end of the month minus the start of the month, and I need to add 1 back on. So this is going to give me how many dates in the month. Next is the starting point. Well, that's the first of the month. And then the next argument is the incremental step. Well, the default is 1, so I can skip this, close parentheses on sequence, press enter, and it returns an array of the date serial numbers. If I select them and format them as a short date, you can see it's the first of the month, second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on. However, this isn't really the format that I want for my schedule. So I'm going to select them again and then Control-1 to open the Format Cells dialog box. And I'm going to create a custom number format. So on the Number tab, choose Custom. And in here, I want the day number and then the day abbreviated name. But I don't want them on one row, and you can see in the sample it's going to show them on one row. So instead of a space here, I'm going to use Control-J to force a carriage return in my format. Notice now I can only see the first D in the format here, and that's because the DDD for the day name is on the next line out of view. Don't worry, it will all come together shortly. On the Alignment tab, I want them centered, which is already selected, and I want to wrap the text. Click OK. So now we don't see the day name, but if I make the row wider, now we can see the day number and the day name. Perfect. And if I change the date here to, say, August, you can see my formula automatically updates. Let's Control-Z to go back to July. Now I'm just going to format this row in a pale green fill. Let's make it bold and centered. And now we're ready to list our employees. Each employee needs 3 rows. So Alice is first, then 3 carriage returns, then Ben, then Chloe. We'll use 1 row for the work status, 1 for the start time, and 1 for the finish time. So 3 rows per person. In column B, we'll record their standard hours. Let's also wrap that text. Alice's standard hours are 8, Ben does 7, and Chloe does 6. And we'll be using these numbers to automate calculating the finish times, which will speed up creating the work schedule each month. Now, if you want to keep the employee names visible while scrolling horizontally through the dates, we can freeze the panes. So select the cell where you want the panes frozen, and then on the View tab, freeze panes, and then freeze panes again. And now if I hold down Control and Shift, I can scroll my mouse wheel to scroll back and forth through my work schedule, and also vertically if I have a lot more employees in my list. Not every day is a working day. Employees take weekends off, go on vacation, or sometimes call in sick. Instead of deleting time or typing notes manually, let's use a clean drop-down system to manage it. We'll use each employee's first row to track the work status. We'll start with Chloe. I'll just select up to the 31st of July. And then on the Data tab, Data Validation. And here I want a list, that is a drop-down list. And then just type in the items that you want to make available. So I want working, day off, sick, and holiday. And obviously you can modify this to suit your needs. Just be sure not to add a space in between them. You just need a comma. Click OK, and you can see I now have a drop-down list, and I can start populating Alice's schedule. You get the idea, so I'm going to pause while I complete the rest. Okay, that's done, but it's a lot of text, so let's color code it to make it easier to read. So starting with Alice's row, I'm going to go across and select to the end of the month and down to row 28. It's just going to allow me to add more employees should I need to. And then on the Home tab of the ribbon, Conditional Formatting, highlight Cells Rules, Text that Contains. It picks up working first, that's fine. With the format, I'm going to go in and use a custom format, and I want to change the fill color to a shade of blue. Click OK and OK, and then just rinse and repeat for the other types of days. So we want day off. This one can be also a custom format, and we'll just make it a shade of gray, and so on and so forth. I'll pause while I finish the rest. And now you can see it's a lot easier to scan at a glance. Next, let's add the working hours for each employee using formulas. So we're only going to enter the start time and Excel's going to do the rest. Rows 2 and 3 for each employee will be their start and finish times. Let's just copy those for Ben and Chloe. Now let's say Alice starts work at 9 AM. She works for 8 hours, we can see that here. She has an hour for lunch. So we can use a formula that takes the start time, plus we're going to add time. How much time? Well, this 8 hours here, and I'm just going to F4 3 times to lock the column reference, so that when I copy this formula, it automatically picks up Ben's and then Chloe's and so on. So we're taking that 8 hours plus 1 hour for lunch, and in the minute argument, well, there's no minutes to add and there's no seconds to add. Close parentheses, and we get a finish time of 6 PM for Alice. Now I can copy this formula across. However, notice when I don't have a start time, and even on days off, it returns a finish time of 9 AM. So we can fix that with the if function. Let's Control Z to undo. And I'll go up into the formula bar and type in if, and I'll just add a space so we've got some room. We have 2 criteria, so I need to use the AND function. And the first one is whether this is a work day. So does this cell here equal working? And is there a time in this cell? Is there anything in this cell? In other words, is it not empty, not equal to blank? If both of those are true, then calculate the finish time. Otherwise, the value of false will just return blank. Close parentheses on if, and we get the correct finish time of 6 PM. And this time, if we copy it across, we don't get any incorrect results. However, if I add another start time for Chloe, you can see it automatically calculates. And I can copy this formula down for Ben and Chloe and repeat with their start times. So let's say Ben starts at 8 AM and Chloe's on holiday that day, so no start time for her. You get the idea. I'll pause while I fill out the rest. Side note, if you're enjoying this kind of logic-based setup and want to feel more confident using formulas like these, I teach everything from Excel formulas to dashboards and Power Query in my online courses. These are the exact tools I rely on when building templates like this, and they'll help you go from basic spreadsheets to time-saving systems. The link will be in the video description and pinned comment. Okay, it's coming together, but let's make it easier to see each employee's data with some dividing lines like I've done here. And we can do that with conditional formatting. I'll start by selecting Alice, scrolling across and down. We want to select down to row 28 and to the end of the month to allow for more employees to be added. And then I want conditional formatting, new rule. And here I want to use a formula to determine which cells to format. And let's just scroll back to the beginning. The formula is simply whether this cell, and I want to make it locked on the column but the row relative, so press F4 twice, and I'm checking whether that equals the word finish. If it equals finish, then we're going to apply a border, and we'll select this green color, and it's a bottom border. So if this cell contains finish, we're going to add a bottom border. Click OK and OK. We can take it one step further and go to the View tab and turn off the grid lines for a cleaner look. And I think you'll agree that looks a lot better. The last steps, if we take a look at the completed one, is to generate this dynamic title and these headline figures. We'll start with the dynamic title. So this is going to be generated with a formula. The first part is simply the text work schedule, space, hyphen space, close my double quotes, and I'm going to use the ampersand to join that to the date. And I'll use the text function to take the date here that we've entered as the start date and just display the month name. We do that with the format MMMM, close double quotes on the format, close text, press enter, and there's our dynamic header. Let's make it a bit bigger, make it 22, and let's also give this some fill color to make it look more like a heading, and let's center that in the row. All right, that looks good. Let's also make these cells bold, and we'll left align. By the way, if you're interested in what my color scheme is, on the page layout tab, you can see under colors, I've set it to the paper theme, and that just gives me a unique color palette. Okay, we're ready to create these headline figures. So we'll start by making this row a bit wider, and I'm going to format these cells in the same blue color as my working days. These are going to be days worked. We're going to center it vertically, wrap the text, and make it bold. And then I'm going to use the COUNTIF function to count how many cells in my table or in my schedule contain the word working. So my range is allowing for more employees, and then the criteria is working. Close parentheses, and we get 55. Again, let's center that. We'll make it bigger and bold. And as a finishing touch, let's Control-1 to open the Format Cells dialog box. I'm just going to give this a thick border on the left in dark blue. And let's add in an icon that gives this a visual indicator to identify what this information represents. We can do that via the Insert tab, Insert an icon, and in here you can search for icons that represent what work is for you. I work on a computer, so I'm going to look for someone sitting at a computer. Click Insert. It's a bit big, so let's change the size to 0.9, and while I'm here I'm going to give it the same color blue, and we'll pop it in there. Let's also make this font the same color blue in keeping with this data. You get the idea, so I'll leave you to complete the days sick and days on holiday for homework, or you can download this already done for you, completed schedule template. It's linked below and ready for you to customize. Speaking of customizing, if you want to add an employee, I recommend you copy one from above, paste it below, selecting the first two rows, delete them, change the name and the hours, and then you can start populating the data. For example, I'd like to have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday off, and I'll do a bit of work on Friday. In my dreams. If you want to unlock more time-saving Excel tricks, check out this video next, where I show you 5 Excel tricks for self-updating spreadsheets. It's a great follow-up if you want to boost productivity and save time at work. I'll see you there.